welcome to week 12 of our Youth Alpha recap videos with me, Antony.
And me, Darren.
And together we form Catalyst Youth UK, which is a movement bringing young people together all across the south of the UK and hopefully across further in the UK, dependent where you're watching this from now. If you haven't seen any of our last videos, you can click on a link on the screen now, go back and recap them, catch up on them, because there might be some things that really do talk to you there. And if you do have any questions, you can find our contacts with Facebook and Instagram on our website, which can be seen on the screen now, or our email addresses. But today's main question was healing. Does God heal today? And Darren's going to kick us off with our very first question within this scenario.
Yes, I am. So question one is, what technology would you love to see invented? Now, we had some really good answers and some strange ones at that as well. One person said that they would invent a machine that they would just press a button and it would slap someone. So we came up with the name of the slapping machine, which is much better than the previous names we come up with during the evening. Another person said a teleportation machine. And we had somebody else who said a machine to cure poverty. One person also in the group said that they would like a computer that doesn't overheat because the fan is really annoying. Now, I don't really hear my fan. I think they might just need to update their computer and get a decent one. Fans are quite quiet in computers nowadays, but there we go. Somebody said about a hover machine. Now, that's a machine I could probably use. So I think, just a hover rather than using the car. A machine to extend the day to 48 hours. A machine that could turn on the sun. I think that happens every morning myself, but I think what they were meaning is that a really nice summer's day that they could have whenever they want all year round, which would be really good. And somebody said that they would like, oh, that was me. I said that I would quite like a pause button. Now, we all know the pause button is already being invented, but I mean a pause button on life where actually when you just get to that point, do you know what? I just want to just click pause and just have some space, have some time to myself where I'm not going to be interrupted and it could just be some me time. We then actually chucked in a sub-question to question one, which was, what is the worst invention made? And there were some really interesting answers that came out. One of those was a hand that held your food whilst you cut it so that you didn't cut yourself. Pausing for a moment there. Never in my life have I ever cut my hand whilst cutting my food. So I'm not sure whoever invented this, what he was or she was even thinking of.
I'd quite like you to try and find an image to put up on the screen, I reckon.
If I can find an image, you'll see one on the screen. Unless they're cutting their food with a machete, I don't think you're going to cut yourself. But it might just be me, I don't know. Somebody said that they have found a skipping rope with no rope. So just wouldn't that be just two handles that look like maracas?
Yeah, you'd be stood there just swinging your hands weirdly. And jumping.
Yeah. Fake credit cards was another one. Man-made pollution. Now, that is a really bad invention. Year 6 SATs. Now, I can actually relate to this one quite well because I've seen young people at the primary school that I go into during SAT season, and it is really stressful. Just the atmosphere. I mean, the teachers try their hardest to try and not make it a big deal when it actually is a massive deal. But it's more looking at what teachers do with their kids than it is looking at kids nowadays. Because government looks at the results of this and then assesses what the teachers are like. We're all different. We all have our different learning styles, and we can't all learn at the same pace as everybody else. So it is a very pointless thing, in my opinion. We also had this one that made, well, I'll go on to this the last two that made me laugh quite a lot. One is a mop suit for a baby. So it was a baby grow with dangly bits that look like a mop. So as your baby crawled along the floor, they could mop the floor at the same time. Not too sure if you can use bleach in your solution at that point. But I don't know. Or it could be a mop suit. If you've got like a laminated floor, then the baby could like kind of sweep up as they're moving around.
Yeah, I think it's more of a broom rather than a mop, probably, isn't it?
Yeah. But then wouldn't that look a bit like a slug trail? Because they're not going to go up and down the room like that. It's just going to look like a trail going across the room. Have you ever seen a slug trail in your garden? It's just going to be this little trail going across.
I'm now just imagining all these parents at home playing like a real life version of Snake with their baby to try and turn them into
squares on the floor. Love it. And then the last one which came in is the worst invention is the G-string and thongs. I'm not quite sure why, I don't know. I mean, it's just a bit like dental floss, isn't it, for the butt?
Wow.
I wouldn't wear any.
Wow.
So, who knows? So, and then that moves us on to our second question to get me out of this hole that I've dug myself, which was, what do you think about the idea that God heals people today?
So one of the things you'll notice with the past couple of weeks' videos is that the first question always seems a bit more lighthearted and we can have a bit of a laugh about it. But then we're being given questions now where actually it does make people think, and it makes you go, what do I really think about this? And healing is one of those situations where I think a lot of the time we're not sure on the answers. We're not sure what's correct. We're not sure how to discuss it. But we had some great answers come up from our group. We had one person say that they think God does heal, but more in the fact that they plant the ideas for medical thoughts in people's minds. So God is in control of the medicine and the medical miracles that we're seeing, because he's planted that idea there. But they find it hard to get their head around him healing in the biblical way. So in the way that we saw Jesus lay hands on people, in the way that we saw him say walk, they struggle with the idea that maybe that is still happening today. Some people, though, can't explain how they've been healed. It is a miracle. One day they'll be really ill and the next it'll be gone. But one of the things that we focused on a lot in our group was actually a lot of the time when you hear the word healing, we think of in a practical element. You've broken your leg, it needs to be healed. You need to walk again, you need to see again. But also, healing can be done mentally and it can be done spiritually. And that's the type of healing that God really does help with. The healing within inside you. Bringing peace to people, something that a lot of people need at this moment in time. I think we've said it before on the videos, but prayer was like the #1 Google search within this time, which shows that people are looking for that healing within. They're looking for that help. They're looking for someone to talk to for that support. But one of the things that it's sometimes more difficult to get our head around is God won't heal all. So it depends on whether things are according to his plan. And it's about giving our trust that whatever happens, if someone doesn't get better, that it's all part of God's plan, that it's all for a reason. Healing may not be how we perceive it. In our minds, we might think, well, this person's really ill. God should make them better. They've got so much to give. But in God's plan, it might be building up to something else. Or it might be that the pain is so much that actually the best thing for them is not to get better. And it's a tough one. It is a tough one to think about. We had someone talk about how when they were younger, they were given a healing power where they were able to lay their hands and pray for people, and they almost felt a tingling sensation within themselves. But because they weren't very strong in their faith, they didn't really trust that, and they're not able to do it anymore. And they were saying how they regret that now, because actually they are stronger in their faith and they'd love to be able to do that work for God. And God will give you the time. He will work it to his plan. He will give people a chance to say goodbye if someone was terminally ill. But one of the things that we should always remember is prayer for healing. It shouldn't be about selfish reasons. It's for God's will and not ours. And when you realize that, when you think actually it's God's will, it's not us doing this, it does make it a little bit easier to understand, because human tendencies, we hold on to guilt, and human tendencies make a massive difference. We really do struggle. I know I do emotionally with something will happen and I'll go, oh, have I caused that? Is that my fault? But actually, when you realize there's a higher power there, you think, actually, I'm not alone. There's someone there holding me. There's someone there giving me the reasons for it. And question 3 of this, it basically told us to take a few minutes to talk about any experiences that we'd had with God's healing, or that we'd witnessed of God's healing. And we had a few stories come from a few people within our group, but we're not going to share them in detail because they're those people's stories to share. However, Darren did have a story of his own, which he has agreed he'd be willing to share. So I'm going to pass on to Darren to take us with this question.
I love how you said I agreed to it.
Well, yeah, you're on Zoom. You agree?
Yeah, I got it. But yeah, I've actually sat here. I've actually got two stories that I'm going to quickly tell you, because we want to make this one this week a short video, because we seem to be getting on to like 30 minutes long. Soon we'll be here for an hour. But the first one is I was actually happened. Both of these happened at a New Wine conference, which happens once a year. Obviously not happening this year. But one was a lady during that week was blind, and come the end of the week after having prayer, she was then able to see again. And we were all, for me, I'm a bit dubious about things like that. It's kind of like I should give over what I'm feeling inside to God and go, actually, God, yes, you can heal. You do have the power to heal. But there's something inside me that goes, I want to see medical reports. I want to see a certificate saying you were blind and now can see. But one of the things that we discussed is that there's a mental condition that can actually make you go blind. Your brain will just switch off the lights, as it were, and then suddenly they will come back on again. And that's not saying that God didn't influence that to come back on, because he can do those things. But because we didn't know that person, we have that feeling of going, actually, I'm not quite sure if that's true. And I think that when it comes to the healing question, it's one of those things that we have to see it in order to believe it. It's really hard for us as human beings, because you've always got that small element of doubt in the back of your head going, nah, that can't be true. But I experienced healing, not personally for myself, but for my wife, Sarah. She was suffering really bad with gallstones, and we were at a New Wine Christian conference, and we had a centre tent where we'd all go to have a drink of an evening, talk about what we've experienced through that day, because there's different seminars you could go to. And within there, they were talking about healing and stuff, and they just said, well, let's just, does anybody here want any prayer for healing? And Sarah was like, well, I've got a gallbladder pain, and, I've got a scan this week at the hospital and stuff like that. And they said, well, let's do laying of hands. And at this point, Sarah had no idea what laying of hands was. So she was like, yeah, sure, yeah. And then suddenly everybody laid hands on her, which is, not like touching all over her face or anything, but, like holding the shoulder or the head or something. And Sarah feels really uncomfortable in those situations, and I knew that she would be. As soon as she said yes, I thought, you're not going to like this. But you can't say anything then, because everyone's all stood up ready to go. So they laid hands on her, and I'm sure in Sarah's head, she was like, just get off me now. But they prayed for healing, and one of her things after everyone prayed for her was that if this works, I'm in the club. That was her exact words. Her pain was every day. Whatever she ate, would kick it off. There are some foods that would majorly kick it off, things like sausages and mincemeat and bits like that. So the next day, she had no pain. She was like, okay, I've got no pain today, but, that's just got no pain because, So the next day, she had no pain again. So she then put it to the test. So she ate every single food that used to give her pain for her gallbladder, and she had no pain. And that went on for an entire year. And I do apologize for the message that's just pinged on my screen now. But yeah, for an entire year, she had no pain, which what to me was God helping her get through the process until she had that operation in order to remove the gallbladder. And to this day, I believe that was God at work, because we tried everything. We put it completely to the test to try and make pain happen, but nothing happened. And to me, that is also part of what God does to heal people. It may be not a complete healing, as in, bang, that's gone, a bit like what Antony said about a broken leg and it's now healed, but doing things according to his plan. And that's one of the things that we need to hand over to him, like Antony said a moment ago, is hand over our trust to him, to trust that he knows best. When we were children, we looked to our parents when we were young, not when we're youth. We know everything when we're a youth. But when we were kids, we looked to our parents and trusted everything they say. If they told you the grass is red, the grass is red. You could easily wind kids up and send them out into the world with that. But we trust what our parents say, and that is what God does as well. God is our Heavenly Father, and he knows what's best. Our parents know what's best. We kind of go along this road of going, actually, I'm going to do this, and it all turns out wrong, and our parents go, well, I did tell you it was going to end up like that, but we had to experience it in order to believe it. So that's the hardest thing we got to do as Christians, is hand over that trust to God and go, God, I trust you in all that you can do and all that you will do, and then just go for it. There's been many experiences through prayer that I've asked God to do things and they haven't happened. Recently I discussed in the group last night about my nephew Lincoln, who sadly passed away after, I think it was about 7 weeks old. And we prayed lots. I mean, my youth prayed, our family prayed, my church prayed, but he still passed away. That really, really hurt. Why didn't God heal him? Why did God heal other babies but not, Lincoln? It was just like, this isn't right. But then taking a step back and praying about it, I've got to remember that it's all part of God's will. It's all part of God's plan. And if Lincoln did survive, what sort of life would he have had? But we've just got to literally put over that trust in God to know that his plan is the best plan. And that's one thing that we have to do.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the end of today's video. But if you do have any questions, or you want someone to talk about any experiences you've had with, please feel free to contact us. You can see our email addresses on the screen now. If you go to our website, you can find our contacts for Facebook and for Instagram. Or if you're part of our youth group, part of our church, or you know us personally, you're going to have our numbers. You're going to have different contacts for us. Just drop us a message. We'll be more than happy to chat and talk to you. A reminder that we have a blog that comes out twice a week. We'd love for you to go and read them. It talks about our lives personally, things we enjoy, things that we feel need to be talked about. And actually, as we sit here now saying goodbye, I realise next week is our final Alpha video together. So thank you if you've joined us the whole way along. Hopefully you'll join us next week. However, the week after that, we have got Catalyst Youth UK's Camp 2020, the garage edition, where we will be live from Darren's garage, doing 2 gatherings a day, 2 talks, where we're going to play some games, we'll have some questions, and a reminder that we want you to set us some challenges to take part in during that time. We want you to send us some questions to answer during that time. It would be great for you to get involved. We'll be live on YouTube, Facebook and Instagram, as well as having a chance where you can come on Zoom if you'd like to actually be involved on the days. But more details will come out about that soon. But if you do have any questions or want to know about it now, contact us, because we will happily answer them for you. But we have come to the end, so that is all we have time for.
So goodbye from him.
And it's goodbye from him. See you soon.
Cheers.